Evening, lads. What is going on? Thank you for joining me once again. Explicit Sage back here with another video. And today the agenda is Need for Speed Payback. My arcade racer binge continues. We wrapped up the Need for Speed 2015 review with some mixed emotions. Overall, a slightly above average game was my stance on the title. Now, with Need for Speed Payback, is my stance going to change? Did they step their game up with their, stance and chance at replicating a Need for Speed game that is replicating the vibe of the Fast and the Furious franchise? Did they hit the mark, or did they drop the ball once again? Let's get into the review. As usual, we're going to break down each and every single relevant category, as we usually do, including the story, the gameplay, the UI, the value, spoilers if need be, and everything in between. Let's get into the review, gentlemen. Patient Gamer Review starts now. Now, today I want to jump straight into the meat and bones of what this game consists of. Let's get right into the gameplay, the user interface, and the overall mechanics of this Need for Speed game. Now, firstly, let's consider the gameplay. The gameplay is solid. It's a driving experience. EA and Need for Speed, Ghost Game, have some modicum of experience of dealing with these type of games. Of course, their previous employees are of Criterion Games, who have experience with the Burnout series and other Need for Speed games that they have developed in the past. In terms of driving, I'd say this is a very solid experience. It's much more user-friendly than the previous Need for Speed 2015, easy to jump into, and I'd say an overall enjoyable experience. Perhaps one complaint that you could say is that it's possibly too arcadey, and what I mean by that is that it doesn't feel realistic when you are playing the game. If you've ever played these mobile games that you have on your phone, or something such as Asphalt, a very cool and fun game, but it's definitely not pushing for realism in any semblance or in any way. It's definitely a fun, foolish little game that has like some cool mechanics, nitrous, crazy jumps and all of this. And I don't know, but Need for Speed Payback seems to have embodied that type of vibe. It gives me the spitting image of Asphalt's 8 Airborne, particularly the Nevada map. So it gives me that vibe entirely. It doesn't necessarily feel realistic. It doesn't feel like I'm playing a car simulator that has added in nitrous and the illegal street racing elements of it, because while of course we are playing a video game, it is somewhat built and grasps in realism. It's just that they and the Need for Speed games add in some nitrous, an interesting narrative story, and the police element. So in terms of gameplay, it is solid. You will enjoy yourself, but in that case, you aren't going to be like, it's someone creates certain realism, that type of vibe. While we do say, realism should be sacrificed in terms of fun, I'd say they push the boundary to a point that where Need for Speed somewhat loses its identity, and I'd say that's the only complaint I have with the gameplay. But you definitely will enjoy yourself. It's cool to drift. It's cool to drive around. As mentioned before, this Need for Speed and Ghost games in general fail to capture the sense of speed. When you are driving your vehicle, you do not feel like you're driving at crazy high velocities, and that is quite disappointing. You don't feel that sense of speed, and I have not felt that feeling, as mentioned before, ever since Need for Speed 2005, Need for Speed Most Wanted, and Need for Speed Most Wanted 2012. So it's disappointing that they didn't hit the mark there, and since in the realms of sense of speed, because you can be moving at 300 kilometers per hour, driving a Koenigsegg vehicle, one of the fastest supercars around, and you do not feel like you are going crazy fast. So that is on the disappointing side. Now, two aspects of the game that I have strong complaints about in terms of the gameplay. Okay, let's just jump and break down the UI pretty quickly. I have absolutely no complaints about the user interface. It's quick, easy to use. Everything is self-explanatory. If you've played a Need for Speed game before, it's completely chilled and understandable. Nothing difficult to see. You understand what's going on to you at all times. The map is decent, the map is solid. There's a fast travel system that allows you to move from place to place quite easily, and I have no complaints with that. So everything is a-okay over there. The map is of decent size. You're never going to be overwhelmed. It's solid, but of course I'll go into more detail when I go into the world. But no issues with the UI, the user interface. Solid, user-friendly, and that is overall the job of the user interface. Now let's get into the two issues and substantial things that we'll have to deal with and that are quite important in the Need for Speed game. In Need for Speed Payback, you do not have full control in the performance customization of your vehicle, nor are there police officers placed around the map that will chase you for participating in illegal activities on the map. Now let's go into more detail in these two topics. Firstly, the customization. This time, Need for Speed Payback have gone away from you being able to use money to make your performance customizations where you'd grind, do a couple of races, tune your car to the max and have a great time. They've gone with a completely rehashed system of using something called speed cards. Now, speed cards, for me personally, I do not enjoy them because it makes it difficult for you to upgrade your car to the performance level that you actually need to perform your tasks. Because of that, it's taken me a lot longer to complete the game, and it's taken me a lot longer to complete some races because I haven't had the ability to upgrade my car and vehicle to the level that is satisfactory for me to be able to complete a race or challenge comfortably. Now, the way speed cards work is that you essentially go to the tune-up shop, it refreshes every 10 minutes, and you buy speed cards, and it's a mixed bag. It's kind of like a gambling game. It's kind of like the lottery. You can get cards that upgrade different areas, but it's a mixed bag. You're not going to get a card that's going to upgrade your vehicle in every single part that you need. It's a lottery. It's a gamble. Either you choose and get a card that it's going to upgrade your vehicle in certain aspects, whether it be brakes, nitrous, acceleration, and whatever other aspects of the vehicle you can think of. Now, there's also the system that they've implemented using the base shipments. These things, as you continue to play the game, you'll get more base shipments and get more trade tokens. These are the things that allow you to go and pick up more trading cards. Okay, in your shop, there's an option for you to buy the trading cards that are there in the shop, and of course there's the little gambling game using those blue little currency, the trade tokens, for you to gain some cool trading cards. So in my opinion, I am not a fan of the system because it is a mixed bag. I do not know why the system was implemented. The only reason that I can think of is because it's for sinister intentions. It's for a way for you to spend a little bit more of your hard-earned real-life money so you can spend more money on the trade tokens and spend more money overall so you can upgrade your car to a satisfactory level. By using this trade token system, it's particularly difficult for you to upgrade your cars quickly. So this definitely does make the game a little bit trickier, as it's frustrating because it's diverging you away from your goals unnecessarily. I ended up having huge sums of money just chilling in my bank account and buying cars, but these new cars aren't really that great because you need to spend a huge amount of money for you to upgrade them to a point where they can actually be effective in your actual races. So I'm not a fan of the tune-up system in this game. In my opinion, it needs to be overhauled. The only thing that really comes to mind is the sinister intentions of them cultivating and drawing more money from their customers, which I was definitely not going to do. I am going to earn my upgrades and do it the old-fashioned way. So that's my view on that. Now, in terms of the other gameplay system that I had an issue with was the police. Bro, unless you are playing a runner mission. Now, okay, maybe I should go into more depth into this. Now, there are multiple different ways in which you can play this game. There are races that you can jump into. There are the race missions, there are the drift missions, there are the off-road missions, there are the runner missions, and a few others that you'll find out as you eventually get to playing the game. Now, depending on the race you have to buy an individual car that you will use to play in each racing mode. Now, personally, I think it's okay. I don't necessarily have a beef with it. Me personally, I prefer to use one vehicle for whatever I'm doing, and then change it as I feel like it. I'm not really a fan of buying an individual vehicle for each race type, but it is what it is. We carry on. But that isn't my main complaint. My main complaint is that the only time that you deal with the police in this game is in story missions or in the runner missions. The runner missions represent you running away from the police. So when you're playing free roam, you are never going to be bothered or be chased by the police even once. And another slight complaint that I have is that the police that are in the Need for Speed Payback are not aggressive enough, in my humble opinion. While I do understand that they're aggressive and there are things put there, they miss the mark in a couple areas. The roadblocks, I particularly have an issue with that. I personally just don't think it's realistic that the police officers have the resources to be able to pick up these huge cinder barricades to block a street racer from running away. It takes too heavy. You'd need heavy machinery to put that in front of the road. It just doesn't make sense. So these roadblocks, in my personal opinion, are unrealistic. And the roadblocks they had before, I understand the spikes, that's much more realistic. Placing police vehicles in front of you, that's more realistic. But cinder blocks, you need forklifts to lift this type of stuff. And if for you to be only running away for a couple of minutes and they've already set up these huge, very intricate roadblocks, it just seems unrealistic. So the police experience in this game isn't particularly noteworthy or impressive in any facets or any way. So guys, in terms of police, I was disappointed with that, because police are an essential part of the free roam experience in an illegal street racing game. That's part of the experience. So if you're out there having a fun time running around, the police aren't going to bother you, which is kind of a problem, bro. The police are a pivotal part of the Need for Speed experience, and they needed to be involved a whole lot more, excluding the story missions. So guys, that's essentially my overview of the gameplay in this game. There are a couple of issues here fundamentally with its structure, and it definitely does hold it back. While I did enjoy the driving when playing the game, a lack of a sense of speed definitely holds back this entire experience as a whole. Yeah, definitely something you need to keep out for. And something else, the final thing that I will notice is that the game feels grindy, bro. I will not lie, it feels grindy, because particularly the people that you go up against aren't exactly that interesting, and the amount of races you have to do to defeat a league, it's not satisfying, or you don't feel you've really achieved much after you do this. It feels like you're grinding up so you can finally unlock a story mission. But we'll go into more detail in the story section. But in terms of gameplay, it's alright. That's how I feel about Need for Speed Payback's gameplay. Let's get into the next section. Now, I want to jump straight into the music section. I don't know what in the world has happened to the Need for Speed franchise and their music. Because Need for Speed, back in the day had the strongest music selections of all time. People go back to YouTube and they still have millions of views to this day of people going back to listen to those legendary soundtracks such as Do Your Thing, Muse and Butterflies, and the myriad of other soundtracks that EA have brought to our attention. Great content that they have out there, and big respect to them. Unfortunately, Need for Speed Payback, like Need for Speed 2015, completely missed the mark in terms of the music selection. There are no memorable soundtracks in the entire game. Disappointing, guys. Extremely disappointing. Music is a pivotal and truly important part of our lives, and with a really good soundtrack, it can truly enhance a scene or moment and make it memorable to us forever. When we think of something that triggers us strongly in terms of nostalgia, it's always going to be a music. It's always going to be a sound. It's always going to be smell. It's not something that we see, it's something that we feel, and music has the power to do that to us, to take us back to a time long ago. That's why people go on nostalgia trips all the time, watching old and listening to old music. It takes you back to a time period of your life that you want to forget, or you want to transport yourself back into. And I think it's truly a shame that Need for Speed have failed once again to hit the mark in terms of their music selection. Need for Speed Most Wanted 2005 will always be and have a special place in my heart because of that crazy special soundtrack. Now, gents, let's consider the world that we are playing in Need for Speed Payback. Now, what they've gone for here is essentially a mock Las Vegas. That's the world that you will be playing in. A place that, Need for Speed haven't delved too deep into, so it was interesting to see their take on it. They are very cool and interesting biomes. You have the cool, of course, Las Vegas, sick, cool city area, which surprisingly isn't very large. But the majority of the game is definitely the rural areas, the desert. Plenty of land over there. There are great highways, cool straight lines you can go to. Once you learn how to drift, you can have a great time spinning and sliding on those highways. Of course, there's also a pretty cool, lush forest type area, so they definitely do give you some decent variety in the places that you race in. The world looks pretty and beautiful, so I will say they hit the mark over there. I have no complaints in terms of that. I played over on the PlayStation 4, and in terms of performance, I was satisfied with it. It was on the 30 FPS, so I had pretty much no frame drops throughout my entire experience. If I can complain about anything in terms of the performance over on my system, it would be that there is a little bit of popping, particularly on the vegetation, the shrubs that are there on the freeway, if you are going at higher speeds. But other than that, it's something you can definitely look past on. If you're playing on the newer stuff, you're not going to face these issues, or if you're playing on a decent PC rig, you're going to be definitely happy with it. And if you are on PS4, nothing to complain about. Satisfying experience. Everything looks good and crisp. Everything is solid. Never any real serious performance issues. So we can carry on over there, and the world is pretty and solid. No complaints over there. Decent world. There are other worlds where I've been truly immersed in it, and I actually want to be there and actually want to drive there. This isn't one of those places. You'll have more attachments to a place such as Rockport or Fairhaven. There are other places in Need for Speed that give you, that make you want to feel part of that world. This is not one of them. So that's all. No real complaints. It's chilled world, good vibes, pretty. They definitely did their job. Shout out to the art department. They definitely did their thing. Now, guys, let's get into the story. Now, if you've researched or seen any footage of Need for Speed Payback, you would come to the conclusion that story and narrative is an important part of the game. Now, this is what I'll confirm to you. It is an important part of the game. Now, unfortunately, they've definitely failed to execute that narrative or story in a captivating or interesting way. Story is definitely pushed to the forefront. Characters are there, they are potent and they are available, they are there in abundance, there are a lot of them, and they try to make them important or interesting, but unfortunately they fail to do so. They don't have the heart or the authenticity that was so well captured in the multiple Fast and the Furious movies. While the Fast and the Furious movies have devolved into something a wee bit ridiculous, the authenticity that they had in the original movies was definitely palpable and something truly special. If you were to rewatch the first Fast and the Furious and Too Fast, Too Furious, even Tokyo Drift, those movies had heart. The cheesiness, everything that made those movies specials was apparent there. And Need for Speed Payback tries to emulate that, but they unfortunately end up failing miserably. The main character of this game is a man named Tyler, with other characters such as Mac and Miller. They don't feel or necessarily act like real people. They feel like fake characters. It doesn't feel authentic. An authenticity that they've lost since Need for Speed 2015, which they surprisingly did quite well in that game. Even though you could see like, okay, this does seem kind of unrealistic on some of the things they do, they were able to give me a real good authenticity that, yo, this is real people, this is a real friend group that I chill with, a really good group of people, a crew that I can vibe with. But that vibe wasn't replicated in this game, and that's truly unfortunate. But it is what it is. In terms of a story, it's essentially a revenge plot. You are essentially a group of car boosters. The job goes wrong and you end up having to play for another team to get revenge, and that is entirely the entire story. And how it plays out, unrealistic, a bit ridiculous in some of the things that happens. The feuds get unnecessarily heated, you know. The villains themselves aren't exactly as menacing as they should be, because if they were real villains, they would have dealt with these race car drivers in a more lethal way, but they don't do that. But the story, unfortunately, the writing department definitely let go of the ball here. They dropped the ball in this regard. The writing isn't particularly strong. The main character isn't particularly potent or anything. He's the generic dude, main character type thing. So in terms of a story, not to be impressed by. It's not something that's going to excite you in any way. So it's a means to an end. It's a reason for you to continue to play the game until the end, but it's not a strong motivator in any sense, guys. Sorry to let you know, but I gotta keep it 1,000 and let you know absolutely everything that's included in the experience. Now, gents, now that we've considered all these other aspects, let's get right into the all special value section of the game. Is this game worth your buck? Is the game value for money? And will you get what you need out of the experience? Now, let's jump right into how long to beat. Now, this is a bit of a difficult one, because I don't know if it's because I've gotten a little older or whatnot, but I have to admit that I feel like Need for Speed Payback has a little bit too much of a grind in my opinion, and what you grind for isn't exactly rewarding in a sense. Now, how long to beat over here gives you, if you do a main story and a bit of sides, it's going to give you a solid 27 hours of gameplay. If you just do the main story, 19 hours, and if you do a bit of a mixed match or you're a completionist, you can get up to 45 hours in the experience. Now, what I will say, and I need to make it clear to everyone who's watching this video, is that I have to say the statement that comes to mind when I see all of these statistics is that it is quantity. Hear me as I say this, it's quantity over quality. And I mean this by the quality of the content is not really worth it in my humble opinion. Now, the races are alright and all of that, but the context leading up to them, or the story pushing you to it is not as strong as it needs to be. And it does feel like there's a huge amount of grind to you to get to the actual interesting parts of the game. So that's why I say that. Now understand that this is a racing game, and for a racing game to give you an excuse to race is you should be satisfied already by that point. But no, I need to compare this game to other Need for Speed games and the other experiences that they've given us. Now, in terms of that, comparing it to its predecessors, I have to be a whole lot more strict and a lot more stern in terms of my judgment and my view of the game. They've definitely dropped the ball over here. Other Need for Speed games have given me more reason and more exciting ways of doing so. And because of the game's poor progression system by using these speed cards, it's a whole lot less exciting to upgrade your vehicles or to spend ample time with each vehicle, because you have to change your car every time you do a different race type. I have little or no connection to any of my vehicles in this game because I have to use such a large amount of them at every blasting moment. So you lose sentimental value at the same time, because usually if you're playing a Need for Speed game, you're stuck with a certain vehicle for a couple of hours at a time, and you end up having some sentimental value to that vehicle because you spend so much time and won so many races with it. I can say that about the Fiat Punto back in Need for Speed Most Wanted 2005. Great vehicle, and to this day I still remember my hours spent racing, winning races with no nitrous, playing with that car, and those were some of my most memorable Need for Speed moments. So the game fails to do that because of design choices, but of course we're in the value section, value for money. And if I'm letting you know, if we're talking quality content, it is not 19 hours of quality content. If I'm going to be honest with you, if we're talking just strict quality or interesting content, we could say perhaps 8 to 10 hours of quality content there. More quantity than there is quality. Now, let's get into the various prices you have available to you in this value section. In terms of gameplay time, you're going to have a decent amount of gameplay time. Now, how much is the game going to hurt your wallet? Let's jump on right over. If you're over on PlayStation now, I recommend you vie over to PS Deals. It gives you all the necessary deals you will need to make the correct gaming decision for you, yourself, your friends, your family, and everybody involved with you. Now over here on PS Deals, the prices that we have available right here, if you are living in South Africa, living in SA, just like me, my G, you're gonna get it for the low price of, on sale, for 71 Rand and 90 cents. On sale. That is pretty much a steal. Not even iklepa. I know me klepa. Not even $100. That is not bad at all for here down in SA. Now if you're over there in the US, this is the price you're gonna have to pay. You're gonna have to pay nothing but a meager $3.99. Yo, whichever country you are in, if you pick this game up on a sale, you are going to get it for an absolute deal. Not gonna hurt the bank. And with the deluxe edition, you're going to get all the extra content that's included in the package, all in one smooth, silky package. Seems like a no-brainer to me, my G, if you're planning on picking up the game. Now, if you're over on PC, let's have a little bit of a look on how much you're going to be paying over there. So yeah, if you're over there on PC, you're going to be paying slightly more if you're going to be picking up the deluxe edition, which I recommend. In general, for most of you guys, you'll be paying $8.99. That is the price you'll be paying for a CD shop, whether you're getting a key or whatever purchasing option you would like to choose. You'll be paying that amount of money to be able to pick up this game for yourself. Not going to be breaking the bank at all. Now, this is the value section, and I want to give you guys just a full overview of whether this game is worth it in terms of pure value. Now, if you consider all these statistics, we consider that the game is 19 hours if you just play the main story. As I mentioned, 8 hours of just story content. You're only going to have to pay 71 Rand. You're only going to have to pay $3.99 if you're playing this over on PlayStation. Just on those metrics alone, on those stats alone, in terms of monetary value and the amount of entertainment value you're going to be getting, it's definitely a steal, and you will not regret it in that sense. But we are patient gamers. I'm going to give you guys the overall rating on the entire experience. Just because it's an older game doesn't mean we're going to lower our standards in any sense. Now, considering all the aspects that I've considered in today's review, the story, the gameplay, the UI, the music, the world, the value, if we put all of this into one big old box and give it an overall rating, as a patient gamer, is this a wise decision for you? Or as just a gamer in general, is this a wise decision for you? Now, if I'm going to give it an overall rating, I'm going to give Need for Speed Payback a solid 5 out of 10. The game is painstakingly average. Very average game. It doesn't stand out in any particular way. The story narrative is very average. They missed the mark in multiple areas of the gameplay because of some fundamental gaming decisions that end up hindering the entire experience as a whole. In terms of the world is okay, but because of the lack of activeness, particularly with police officers or any other aspects of the game, you don't feel any connection to it. There isn't a memorable soundtrack, so when I look back, there's nothing that's going to be pulling me back to the times where I spent playing Need for Speed Payback, which is already an L on its own. So this game absolutely deserves the 5 out of 10. It is just average. We're giving it a solid 5 because there are no substantial game-breaking bugs, which we really shouldn't even be giving companies any credit for giving us an experience that works. But I will mention the experience works completely well, and of course, bro, it's a racing game. If racing games were to start having serious game-breaking bugs, it's all over for us, bro. There's no chance any other game developer has a chance. But as I mentioned before, it's an okay title. It's a 5 out of 10. If you're just looking for a racing game, just sink a couple hours, just have a little bit of fun. It's an okay title, but I'll be honest with you, spend your money and time on a different title, because this game just it doesn't do enough for you to need your attention, for it to need you to spend your hard-earned money on it. There are other options available to you guys. So guys, that was my review of it. Explicit Sage back with another Patient Gamer review, you heard. But yeah, man, those are all my thoughts on Need for Speed Payback. I may have seen a little bit negative in this review, but I have to be absolutely honest with you guys. Not all reviews are going to show you this complete analysis of the entire experience like this, as thorough as this, guys. Needed to make sure that you guys had all the information so you can make the most intelligent gaming decision for yourself, guys. So, guys, take it easy. There are other racing games out there. The next one I'm going to check out in this arcade racer binge is Need for Speed Heat. So expect that review to come out quite soon. Need to sink my teeth into that title. But most definitely, guys, pick up another racing game, not Need for Speed Payback. If it's your first Need for Speed, this is definitely not where you should start at all. The other titles, so definitely jump on those first. So guys, like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for joining me once again. Take it easy. Peace.